The latest chapter in Porsche history reads like a courtroom drama. The new Macan Electric has split opinions so sharply, it feels personal to some fans. On one side, technicians hail progress, and on the other, die-hard owners accuse the brand of selling its soul. This introduction frames that emotional fracture and sets up technical evidence, recalls specs and owner testimony that underlie why devotion turned to doubt. The story matters because it tests brand trust and buyer patience across markets. A separate safety action targeted the lighting system when regulators identified headlamps in a specific production window that emitted excessive luminous output. Porsche announced that 2,941 cars were affected and that a software update would be delivered. For many buyers, this sounded like a trivial fix, but symbolically, it seeded worry that quality controls had slipped. This debate is not academic. It affects resale values, owner communities, and future product choices. More seriously, a recall addressed rear-view camera faults where images could appear blurry or vanish entirely when reversing. The formal report recorded 8,571 potentially affected vehicles requiring software updates, inspection, and in some cases, camera replacement. That magnitude amplified concern and fed a narrative that early Macan electrics were rushed to market. Observers watch closely because Porsche choices influence premium makers who follow. On paper, the Macan EV GTS reads like an adrenaline note with peak outputs and calibrated overboost surges designed for immediacy. Porsche tuned the powertrain for transient thrust that flirts with sports car territory and timing maps delivering short bursts of extra torque. That acute shove is meant to signal performance DNA, yet headlines clash with the quieter day-to-day sensations. Owners expect the consequences ripple from social feeds to dealership floors and executive strategy rooms. Pricing amplifies the controversy when premium numbers place the Macan EV GTS in rarefied company. The package demands a high premium for software-driven performance features and bespoke chassis tuning. Critics argue that paying top dollar should mean holistically engineered sensations, including braking, steering, and cabin feel, not only sprint statistics and glossy spec sheets. The consequences touch ownership, pride, and long-term brand equity, which matter deeply. Forums brim with reports from owners describing brake pedal sensations that lack crisp initial bite and exhibit a muted modulation curve. Many describe a filtered connection between foot and anchor point as though digital smoothing had been prioritized over tactile fidelity. For drivers who equate Porsche with directness, this perceived detachment became a rallying complaint and shaped a broader perception that core tactile promises were being diluted. Steering critiques follow similar lines. Owners note a heavier feel in urban electronic modes and a vague looseness at certain speeds that undermines the celebrated Porsche steering character. Combined with reduced mechanical feedback, enthusiasts lament a dilution of distinctiveness, arguing that software calibration and comfort optimizations have eroded the very traits that defined Macan driving personality. To purists, the car risks becoming efficient, but less alive. Ultimately, the question of betrayal versus evolution cannot be answered in absolutes. Porsche is adapting to emissions, realities, and electrification imperatives, yet must carry emotional stewardship of its badge. The backlash is partially fair as recalls and tactile complaints shook confidence, but it is also cultural resistance to change. The path forward requires Porsche to marry electrification with the tactile soul owners expect or risk losing the devotion that built its legend.